Welcome back. Welcome back to the second half of our Chit Chat session. And as we promised, we have delivered our special guest for the evening.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Retired Deputy Velma Glover is with us this evening. Velma is one of the pillars in our church, one of our founding members, and also director of the music. So we've always appreciated that. We love it when she sings. And also, we want to glean some knowledge about her history with the Sheriff's Department. And so we have some questions for you. So I'm going to, again, turn it over to our moderator, Ronald.
Thank you. And, well, before we start, though, I mean, I know Rosemary introduced you as, former police. But why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, tell us about
what is Velma like? Are you just a cop, or are you a little bit more?
Oh, well, I can say for sure that I'm no longer a law enforcement officer. I'm definitely retired from that. I retired a few years ago. And I'm a mother of 2, and I have 5 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I'm very excited that you guys will get to meet the 5th one this Thanksgiving.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so they're coming, and but that's who I am, basically, a traveler, a person who likes to spend time just relaxing.
Yes. Yes. You didn't mention the singing part, that you're a professional.
Yes, I am a singer, and I get a chance to go out and do what I really believe the Lord has gifted me to do, and that is to share that gift with the rest of the world as much as possible.
Yes.
And, so that's where I'm in my real space.
All right. All right.
My authentic self, if you will.
I like that.
Yes.
Authentic self. So Velma, let's go back to to your role as a police officer.
Okay.
And I know for me, I majored in business because I like money, in a Christian sort of way, of course.
Of course.
But I always talk to my sister about fields where you're in service to others. Those are a little bit different. I talked to Rosemary, for example, about why a doctor. She always tells me, it's not about money. It's about having a calling for it.
That's right.
So did you feel like a calling or like a special desire to be a police officer?
Well, I can tell you that I grew up a tomboy, first of all. So I played a lot of cops and robbers. And as I was growing up, I always imagined myself being a police officer. And because I like to, keep everybody in line. I was the youngest of 6, so that was my way of being in control. If I was the one, upholding the law. So I had always wanted to do so. I first went into service as working for social services. And I transitioned into law enforcement because I was at a place in my career and my life where I knew it was time for me to make a change. So I decided, what would I really like to do if I could do anything? And I had never fulfilled that desire. So that's how I ended up actually transitioning into law enforcement.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Wow. And you joined the Sheriff's Department versus the Police Department. Now, can you just tell us what the difference is really between?
Well, first of all, we always like to be called the Sheriff's Office.
Oh, sorry.
Right, and there you are. It says Tampa Police Department, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
But I can tell you that when I was in the academy, that we had visitation from and instructors who were from both agencies and even agencies outside of Hillsborough County. And I took a liking to the Sheriff's Office. I really liked the way that things were set up there, and it also helped me to transition into, to remain in the retirement system.
Okay.
So I didn't have to start over.
Okay.
So that also was an interest.
Okay.
But I liked the Sheriff's Office. We wore white uniforms, shirts, versus the blue. So I really gained a great interest in the direction that the Sheriff's Office was going in.
Okay. Yeah.
And of course, we're thankful for
yes.
your service as a police officer. But one of the most important things too is about you is your faith, your strong
Yes. Yes.
Christian faith. So,
Yes.
so my next question is kind of a two-part question. It's a
Okay.
twofer.
It's a two.
Has your Christian faith ever interrupted your role or your duties as a police officer? And the second side of that is, has your faith helped you in diffusing or, maybe preventing or, help you in resolving an issue and a situation? Has it been a crutch? Has it been a help or a hindrance? I guess.
Well, I can tell you
That's
that
a good question.
that with as far as my Christian faith and becoming a law enforcement officer, I can tell you that it enhanced my job performance, definitely. And I certainly was not afraid to wield that before anything else, going to any other process to help people to stop and pause and understand that they are not their situation. So I certainly found that it was to my advantage that I was a woman of faith, because I didn't then assign terminology like scumbag and negative connotations to people. I saw people with compassion. Exactly. I saw them in a way that I think, again, was to my advantage. So I never felt that I arrested someone I should not have arrested. I never felt that, I never, absolutely never felt that even in the worst of situations that I had the right to mistreat someone. And I think my faith is what, made that possible, because you can really become jaded in a job like this, where almost everyone you encounter has a negative circumstance for you to come into.
Yeah, that's why you're arrested.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever felt fearful for your life?
Oh, absolutely. I think that initially you have an immediate fear, but then I always, as I would do in any situation, rely on my faith. So I knew that I would be protected no matter how it ended up, that I would be protected. So even if I were to have lost my life, I would have still been under the umbrella of Christ.
Oh, praise God. Praise
I have a
God.
question
Yeah,
for you.
that's good.
Now that you've retired,
Yes.
what is something, how has that enhanced your faith? Going through what you've gone through,
Okay.
dealing with all types of people in society, how has that have impacted your faith now that you are no longer in service like that? What have you gleaned from that to help you to become a better Christian?
Oh, good question. I can say that, again, going back to having compassion and being able to now apply that to people in my life in general. Because, again, not being employed, being retired, sometimes I find that by having the history with the people that I have, that I'm gentler and I'm kinder with my family and with my other friends, because I can see how being in a situation from being on the other side, if you will, committing crimes, or even just having a situation in your life where you need assistance from law enforcement, being able to now say, well, with my family, we have each other, we've got friends, we have support. But I know that there are a lot of people who did not have that. So coming from that space, I now see how important it is to really have family, to really have faith, to really have friends, and someone to be there for you. Because a lot of people who go in and out of jail or prison, it's because they don't have anyone. So it's really helped me in my personal life, and when I'm dealing with other people, that hey, remember, there are some people who don't have anyone. Look at all of this around you.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I know
Wow.
too, I mean, with 5 grandchildren and all the community stuff that you do,
Yes.
I mean, it's when you say, retired, I know you say,
You're not really
I know you say
retired.
that right.
You got your new job,
Right,
babysitting.
exactly.
I have 2 grandchildren, and it's, I know what it's like. 5.
Well, as soon as everyone knows you are retired,
Yeah, then they always got
find
something
work.
for you.
Yes, they always have something for you to do. Yes.
So in general, you know, people feel negatively about law enforcement people because there's been so much brutality. So how did you personally deal, say, if you, you know, had to arrest someone or whatever, and they said negative things to you? How would you respond?
Lord God, help me handle this. That, you know, and I say really that
Starts with prayer.
exactly. It's because there have been times when I've gone up to someone because they've had a traffic violation. I go up to the car and they say some things to me that I can't repeat. And I would say, may I please have your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance? And I would have to go back to my car and pray. And so, like I said, I saw that as my advantage, you know, because I always had a filter through which to process whatever circumstance or situation. So I say that, again, I would say, you know, the people who didn't know Jesus should have thanked him that I knew Jesus. So, yes.
Oh, wow. Yes. Well, I wish I never had anyone like you stop me. I'm being pretty Christian.
But you know, just going on that, you know, just a little bit, and I'm just going to toss a very general question at you.
Okay.
Because I don't know how to make it specific. But, you know, Rosemary was talking about all of the issues and the problems that are happening today between the police.
I think that we have to educate those law enforcement members. I think it's important that they get the right education because a 4-hour block of civil rights and, you know, liberties is not going to help. I think there has to be more intense communication, and I also think that there has to be we have to go back to the old way of doing business where the law enforcement officer in my community is actually in my community. And so we get to know one another, you know, because I would make it my business, because again, like I said, by being a Christian, my purview of it was not, it's a job. I saw it as service. So
a calling.
Exactly, it was service. I'm providing a service, and that was the joy of what I did. So I think that, you know, with me, I would get out and play basketball. You know, if I saw people at the basketball court, I would get out of my car if I saw someone sitting on their porch. I think we have to get back to relational policing. Now, and some people think that means, oh no, you get too common, you know, then people won't respect you, and that's not true. I beg to differ. If you show people that you are human and that you see them that way, I think it can only improve the relations.
Yes, yes, yeah, and I don't see becoming too familiar with somebody who is literally dressed to kill. Okay.
But also to understand that person who's dressed to kill is just like you, because I would tell people all the time, listen, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a human being, and I have the same feelings and emotions that you have, but it's how I direct mine and how I express them that may be different, and that's why you're on this side of the cage and I'm on that side. You know? But I'm a human being. I'm not a police officer only. I do this this pays my bills like it pays everyone else's. You know, like the people who are doctors and who are lawyers and who are storekeepers. However, the way that people envision law enforcement officers is like they give them, you know, either respect or none, versus if they were a doctor or if they were a pastor, they would treat them different. So I would always say to people, no, we're human beings too, but I think you have to show that as well. So you can't walk around, you know, with the bravado that I've got the weapons and so I'm in charge here. I think you have to go in understanding that you do have to maintain your authority, but you also have to respect people.
How many officers feel the way you do? Are most officers, I mean, the impression that we get on TV is those with the bravado.
I think it's a culture. And I think that if you have a faith-based life, because there were many that I worked with who did, if you have a faith-based life, then you understand that you don't have the power. So I think that once you understand that, then you understand that, you know, we're human beings and we all fall short, as I was mentioning earlier to Pastor Bobby. We all fall short. So it's any given Sunday, just because of my circumstances, I'm not in your situation.
Right.
You know, so I think that as far as the number of people, there were several people, many people who had a Christian or some religious faith where they treated people as human beings versus criminals.
I have a question for you. In terms of your service, and now that you finished the service, in terms of the scriptures, what scriptures that you've seen come to light doing your work as a police person, and now you look back at it, you can see what God was saying in the Word and how that has shaped you right today after you've retired from service? Is there any particular book of the Bible or scriptures that you can say, I didn't understand that at first. Now after going through 20 years, I see what God is saying.
That's the message.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that one of the things that always stuck out with me, and I think I've carried into retirement, was how God can change anyone. So I would think a lot, because I would minister to people, and I would sing to them, and because I always wanted people to understand what love was. So I think for me, that was where all scripture that applied to that was where I saw my life being transitioned from one to the other. Hope, faith, love, charity, all of the things that will change your life is what I took away from that. Because I did see and I did hear, people, I would go and arrest them and they would say, Deb, I'm glad you came for me. Because the last person who came, so I did see that God was working through me, and it was my faith, it was my love, it was my charitable spirit, that made a difference in their lives, and so like I say, I've seen some people say, yeah, you remember me when you arrested me, and say, but now I got my life together, just because of that,
Is there, and I know you've been away from it for a little while, is there like a Christian push that you know of towards in the police force?
Well, the police force has always had chaplains.
Yep.
They
do? They do have chaplains.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they've always had a chaplain, and primarily I can tell you that the one at the sheriff's office that they had, he retired. Eventually, he actually started his own church. But when I first arrived, and he was there for most of my time there, he was very active. And so you saw him all the time. He was, so you didn't just see him when someone got, injured or wounded or killed on duty. Yeah. You saw him all the time. So he was there. So the presence was definitely there and available.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
No, that's
there are chaplains that are policemen, police chaplains.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. What do you think about one thing that, again, we get most of our information from TV. We're not living it. But we see the weapons that the criminals have are just, they look like war weapons. Yeah. And when officers, when I have been stopped in a traffic incident, the comparison between the weapons is like night and day.
And not just criminals. I mean, everybody has those weapons.
Well, I guess, So, everybody has weapons now. Yeah. I'd like to hear your opinion about these weapons, these semi-automatic weapons or whatever that people have.
Well, I can say that when I first started, that a handgun on your hip was plenty. Every blue moon you may encounter someone with a shotgun. But then when the AR-15s, the automatic weapons, started coming out, the big guns, then the police force had to up their ante as well. Now, I don't see that as the answer, obviously, because that just means more against more, and that's not going to resolve it. So my opinion regarding that, even from law enforcement and even personally, is that we should, if we have police officers, then why do we fear so much that we need to have these weapons in our homes? So we have someone, we say that we have to protect us and to keep us safe, because when they talk about defunding the police, all those people who own those weapons and others, were up in arms because
up in arms.
Yeah, you can't defund the police, even though that wasn't what they were discussing.
Yes,
However, so that was just bad terminology.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think if you
terminology.
yes, fake. Yeah. But I think when you say we need the police, so we can't defund them, then you have to say, then I need to feel comfortable and safe if I need the police. So if you're going to, ramp up your ammunition that is going to overpower what I can do to protect you. So it would be like if you say, well, God is my source, but you keep running somewhere else to get your provision, then God isn't really your source.
Not your source. He isn't.
Right?
Yeah,
So if you believe that you can find something bigger than He, then why do you need the police? Right. So I think that when people argue that point, that they don't really understand that now you have gotten bigger, you're more dangerous than the police, if you will, or you're more of a protector than the police because you have more. So I think that people really should consider that there is no need for it. We should feel at peace, because there are some countries who have police who don't have guns.
Yes, I've read about that.
And they're not running around with guns.
No, that's true. They're not. They're
right.
not.
So
That's
it's just
right.
an excuse, and I think it's more of a financial issue.
Oh, yeah.
I think that people find ways to encourage people to think they need things they don't need, and that is definitely one of the things you don't need.
And Rosemary, don't think that the police have upped their ante too.
Yeah, the police have upped their ante.
We're seeing a lot more police with.
Well, they have tanks as much. Yeah.
I mean, I saw just a squad of police in gear with automatic weapons.
Right.
I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I just kept
either,
walking.
but I crossed the street.
So it's
I'm just
it's
a
happening on both
visitor.
sides,
Right. And that's why I
Yes.
say, so we shouldn't have a competition with the police in terms of protection. A handgun should be sufficient in your home. And if we've got to walk around with guns all the time, then what do we need the police for?
Yeah.
So I think that people really need to reconsider that it's a marketing tactic. It's not about safety, because you're not safe just because you have an automatic weapon.
That's true.
If I get to mine first, we would always say first accurate shot wins.
There you go.
That's why y'all practice.
I remember being a Marine, and you're out, and you're out there with people who really are truly trying to kill you.
Right.
Okay, let me just put that out there.
Right.
These people are really truly trying to kill you. And when I would go out with my squads, I would say, we would say Psalms 91, and we say, this is a good day to die. And the reason we said that is because if you're drawing your weapon, someone else is drawing theirs.
Right.
And you have to be very mindful of that. And I see that spirit here in America. I'm like, but you're not at war.
Right.
But if you take in propaganda that tells you are at war,
Right.
and you're believing the hype that people who don't look like you
Right.
are against you, and they're going to take what you think you possess.
Exactly.
That's only fueling the market, because fear will make people buy what they don't need.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Good.
Yes.
That's
So billionaires become multi-billionaires.
There they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the whole process with, you better get your guns because the president's going to take your guns.
So we're going to get more guns.
Right. So it was really to sell more guns, more bullets, because that made someone very, very wealthy.
And I can tell you the margin on automatic rifles, it is just out of this world. Wow.
Yes.
I mean,
Of
the
course.
profit margin.
Yes.
Wow.
It's why are they pushing so many of them out? It's
It's
all
fun.
about
Big
the budget.
profit
It's money.
margin.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't
money.
take much. If you look at the
Right.
price point, what is it, about $35, $40, $50 at most?
Yes.
Even at your best guns?
Yes.
And if I sell that rifle to you for $700, you think I'm going to stop?
Right.
Oh, my.
Exactly.
I'm going to put as much fear in you as I can, because I want you to buy more of these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's
that's
all
what
about.
It's all separating you
I
from
do
your
have
money.
one more question. If you could just mention about racial relations in the department, because that's a big issue now. Is that something you feel comfortable talking about?
Sure. I think that, again, through training that I was a part of, and so again, I'm not, there at this point, but through the training process, I did see gaps where they definitely could have done more aggressive and detailed training. I think also that it's important that when you present it, that the persons who you are having communication with, that you are having issues with, should look like the person who's applying the teaching. So
Gotcha.
I think that one of the things that all agencies, or most, if not all, could benefit from, and the community as well would benefit from, is if they had intensive real life training. Because people are so uncomfortable with the process of communicating about racial relations, that they always miss the mark. Because as soon as someone says, well, I don't know why we have to keep talking about it because I don't do that, or, most of my friends or neighbors are a certain color, gender, or otherwise.
My best friend is white.
Right, so that's when we know that we still have issues. Because I can tell you that race relations is not about race relations in this country. I've lived in this country all my life. And in this country, I know that discrimination is not about my race. I know that discrimination is about gender. I know that discrimination is about anything that I don't agree with and is different from what or who I am. And there has been in America a lot of people who have been discriminated and continue to be discriminated against, but people focus on the black-white issue to keep people's minds preoccupied so that they can't see the truth. Because as we know, black people were not the only people enslaved or who were indentured servants. We know that, being Jewish was not popular. We know that being Irish was not. We know, and they don't look like me. So it's not about that. But I think that if we can get people to stop trying to focus on black-white and focus on the true issues, that we would do better.
That's true.
We would have to do better. So you can continue, because they kill poor people of all shades. They don't just kill black people.
That's
you know. And so, and of course, being in law enforcement, and again, I do see both sides. And so whenever I would hear about a shooting or something, I would always have conversations with my friends and my family about what it feels like to be in the situation the law enforcement officer was in. And then I would assess it from that point of view. So, so that's why I say, for me, I do see that, yes, there is a problem, undoubtedly. But the problem is not just about black and white.
It's deeper than that.
I like the fact that you were able to broach that in that way, because when you historically look at it, look at the injustice, and let's remember that America was built on racism.
Right.
Okay. First of all, racism against the Indians.
Correct.
They wanted to annihilate them because they wanted the land, and then they needed people to work the land, so they enslaved people. And it wasn't just Africans that were enslaved, it was poor whites that were enslaved too. And when you look at the rift of the country during during the Civil War, people want to say it was for aristocracy and for the way of the South. No, South Carolina and North Carolina is historically documented. They left because they wanted slavery. And then all the other states followed. But if I can use an ism, if I can treat you less than, so it doesn't even matter who you are an ism, and you are in the way of me getting this American dream that I think I own and I should have, and you should not have it. See, that's where racism actually comes from, because it's and I like what the way King said. When will America live up to its Constitution? And if you deny others the constitutional right, that means other people are gaining on that constitutional right, and they feel now that it's their privilege to step on you instead of seeing it as an atrocity. And so when you look at racism, yes, racism is an ism in terms of ethnicity and in terms of what our hue is, but it's way, way more than that, because now racism becomes this thing that tells you and me, I'm better and you're worse. Because when you look at racism at its core, that's exactly what it's saying.
That's right.
I am better than you. Since I am better than you in every way possible, no way should you get anything that I have, and you should be happy getting these meager things that I bestow upon you. And that goes back to where America is. We love a slave state. We want people on top and the masses on the bottom begging for crumbs. And when you look at racism from that point of view, that persists today, that's still the basic core. I want you, I want to have, but I don't want you to have.
Yeah.
So imagine, and I'll say that.
Very good.
Imagine not knowing the truth.
Yes.
Imagine living in a way where the reason you can't have the conversation is because then you'd have to live in your truth. So you can't own Christianity and own that lie.
There you go.
So I think that as long as people are not willing to take the veil off, and as long as they're not willing to live in light, that the darkness will always be there. Because just imagine if that was who we were, how ashamed they must be of themselves when in the darkness that they really get a hint of the light. Because they do. And so that's why you can't have the conversation.
Right.
And that's why we can discuss it, because we know that we're only seeking the truth.
Yes.
We're only seeking for others to live in the truth. So,
Yes.
Yeah, but
so
you-
I
but-
would be,
No,
I think I would be
That's a very good
timid and afraid if I, as you, so eloquently explained, were at the top saying, here, take these.
Meager.
Yes. Here you go. And be happy and be quiet. You know.
But another way to look at it is, I mean, in some ways, and this is stretching it out there, but taking the other side, it's possible that things are getting better and not worse. And let me give you an example. I remember back in 1980, I was on a plane back from San Francisco. And I was sitting next to a guy that had this big fat book and, it was a long trip. And he started showing me all of these pictures of, cops shooting people of color. And he was flying around the country. He was from a nonprofit. And he was putting this big, massive document together. And he scared me. I gotta tell you, as a young black man, he really scared me. But as you said, Velma, it's things are coming more to light now. I mean, everybody has a camera.
That's true.
Everybody. So we're bringing a lot of stuff
to light
that
That's
was
true.
always there.
It's always been there.
And by bringing it to light, I have to believe that things have to get
Yes,
better.
if things are
when
coming
you
to
shine
the
that light on it. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's how I have to look at it. Things have to get better.
Yeah, and we're
by
praying
bringing
that
to
it
light. And
gets better.
I hope that's the world that we live in.
Well, and I think that's why it's so important that we have faith,
Yes.
that we have a place to receive comfort and peace, because hurting people hurt people. And as long as they're hurting, to hold on to that top tier, as long as they're in fear, they will continue to hurt.
Yes.
So do I think that it's a good thing that, we're seeing all or almost as many of the crimes, because it was happening. We just didn't see it.
We just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have control of the media, and they're losing more and more control of the media. And I believe that is one of their biggest weapons that they wield, is that they control the narrative. And now with social media, you can find out something happening right now.
Yes.
You don't have to wait until 6 o'clock.
gets on
news, so
CNN,
you don't-
yeah.
You get it, it comes right up on your
Yeah.
tablet.
Right.
What? There's a shooting. Where?
Right.
Yeah.
And CNN does not get to dictate the narrative any more than MSNBC
Or Fox or anybody.
Fox.
Right,
No
right.
one gets to dictate that narrative
Right,
anymore. And
right.
I think that is one of the biggest changes
That's true.
for us as a world,
Yes.
as a planet.
Yes.
Because if it happens in Japan, we can know. If it happens in China, if it happens in America, they can know.
Right away.
And so I think that was one of the things, because as when I was growing up, I remember when they used to have Bruce Lee movies.
Oh, yeah, I love that movie.
So I had never been to
Into the
China.
Dragon?
Yes, my favorite one.
Yeah.
Fist of Fury. But when I would go to the theater downtown and watch the Bruce Lee movies, and my impression of Chinese people was Bruce Lee.
Yes.
But then as I matured into the 70s, into the late 70s, I realized that was their impression of me what they saw in Come Back Charleston Blue and Shaft.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
and
That's true.
Superfly.
Okay.
So that was their impression of
Yes,
me.
yes,
because that is what the American
narrative was.
Right.
That was the
Narrative
narrative,
was, and
yes.
it was controlled on purpose.
Right.
So they wanted us to think that all Asian people were Chinese and they could do kickboxing. You know, and they wanted them to feel that all black people.
We were just thugs and robbers and pimps and
exactly,
hoes.
pimps and exactly.
There you go, gotcha.
So they wanted that to be the narrative, and it worked for a long
Long
time. And then someone said, "Oh, look, we can do the internet," but they didn't think far enough in advance. Thank God.
Thank God. Mhm.
And so they didn't control it. And I think that that's one of the best things. And I think that's going to be, that was one of the changes that had to happen for us.
It had to happen. It had to happen. Yeah. Well, I have one more question. I think it might be the last question, but obviously you are very pretty. You are very attractive. And every day.
Am I getting a husband now?
Every day.
Come on out, guys.
You get a husband, you get a husband. Yeah, okay.
Every day I'm like, oh, Lord, just make me look like Velma. But
we're going to flash your number.
Right, exactly across the screen. Right.
But I want to know, again, being a law enforcement officer, I am sure that, how did that play into it? I mean, were people, trying to bribe you, falling over you, even your colleagues and the criminals? I mean, how did that play into it?
I can tell you that probably arresting guys was one of the most interesting things that would happen. Because I'd put them in handcuffs, put them in the car, and as I'm driving, they would ask for my phone number, and I would say things like, "You do know you're going to jail, right?" And they would say, "Yeah, Dad, but I won't be in there long." And
I'm coming out.
Right, I'll
be out.
Right, exactly. And then there were guys who were intimidated. A woman, wearing a gun, and then there were others interested because I had the handcuffs. So it all depends. It would all depend. But I can say that. There's some fantasy. Right, exactly. There's, it's a blessing and a curse.
Okay, bring it down. Bring it down.
Bring it down. Right, exactly. For those bad people thinking.
Those bad people.
But I really found it hilarious. I mean, when it first happened to me, I was at the gas pumps. So the sheriff's office has their own gas pumps. And so I was at the gas pumps, and we also utilized our trustees, which were our people in jail who they trusted, to come out and do different types of assignments. So they would wash our cars. So the gas pumps and the car wash was in the same area. So one day I'm getting my car washed, and there were like 4 guys, and they're washing my car, and one of them singing the song Lil Wayne had, excuse me, Miss Police Officer, weeda, 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 right? So I'd never heard this song, right? So I'm paying it no attention. He's just singing. So I go to pump my gas. He comes and says, "Hey, let me pump your gas?" I said, "Okay," So he pumps my gas, and he starts singing the song again. Weeda, weeda, weeda. So, I'm thinking it's weird. So I'm talking to my daughter, just in conversation a couple of days later, and I said, the funniest thing, I had to listen to find this song, because this guy, I got to find this song, because this guy kept going, weeda, weeda. And she says, "Mom, do you not know what that is?" And I said, "No, I've never heard it." And she said, "He was trying to pick you up." Because that's Lil Wayne's song that says, "Mrs. Officer," so he's like hitting on the officer.
Oh, okay.
But that was my first time really understanding that they're serious about this,
He was serious.
Yeah, he was serious, but I really found that funny though.
That is funny.
Yeah, because I was a few years younger too. See. So,
And you had handcuffs.
Exactly. That
suit
suit was fitting. You know what I mean? So
I just want to help you.
Exactly.
They're not fuzzy handcuffs on.
No,
not fuzzy ones. Okay, those are private use. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry.
And those are the ones that everybody likes. They don't like the fuzzy. But it was. I really did get a lot of handcuff comments. I got that a lot, But again, it was a fantastic time, in career, and it had its struggles, as any job does. But I can tell you that I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was really a wonderful experience. And as I said, gave me an opportunity to share my faith, in many ways, ways that were very subtle and some that were very direct. So.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you will come back.
Yeah,
I will come back. And I'm glad to be here, and I didn't have to sing a note, you see. So, yes.
I like that. If we get any requests from people to have you in your full gear,
You know,
how do you feel about
I can get close to it. I can't get completely. I can get close to it.
No, see, I was gonna.
Yes.
She's not doing parties, people. No, despite what he's saying, she's not available for parties.
I do still have the handcuffs, though. I kept. I actually bought a pair when I was working, and so I still have those.
Okay. For those that you have that thought, she has those handcuffs.
I do have them. Yes.
Yes. The fuzzy ones.
But Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy. Was it?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We're going to have an after talk.
Okay, this is going to be a lot of editing, right? Yeah.
Yo, my goodness, you can't take some people like
I know.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. May the Lord bless and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, and give you peace.
Yes,
Amen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.